right. Hey. How's everybody doing today? So,
Hello.
obviously, I'm not Leslie. Leslie is traveling right now, and she's asked me to fill in for her and cover this Facebook Live. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Rita. I'm on Leslie's team, and I'm kind of her tech nerd that's always behind the scenes. But today, she asked me to be in front of the camera. So, here I am. And today, we have with us Miss Kylie Fagnano from Strata Nutrition. Did I say that right?
Yeah, that's great.
Awesome. And let me tell you a little bit about Kylie. Kylie's an integrative and functional dietitian specializing in gut and digestive health and autoimmune diseases. In her practice, Strata Nutrition, she draws a big emphasis on the connection between the gut and the brain as a way to reintegrate the body and accomplish deep, long term healing. All right, Kylie.
Thank
Can
you.
you tell us a little bit about the gut brain connection?
So I think it's really the first interesting thing, and I stopped. What I used to start saying is it's not news that there's a connection between the gut and the brain, and then people started saying, "What? I don't know what you're talking about." So I think sometimes I forget being in the bubble that I'm in, but the first most important thing is that there is in fact a connection between the gut and the brain. So some people that might not be news to, but what you maybe don't know is there is a physical, tangible, literal connection. So between the brain and the gut, everything is connected by one nerve called the vagus nerve, and it comes from your brain and it innervates every single part of the digestive system. That's why the gut is starting to be known as like the second brain, or in some research it's actually maybe being considered the first brain, and our brain as we know it kind of the second. But there's so much about this connection that we don't know yet. That's also very important. But why does this matter and why is it important? Well, wow, how many of us are struggling with gut issues? How many of us don't even know that we're struggling with gut issues? How many people have an autoimmune disease where, a couple decades ago, nobody even knew what that was? And the really cool thing about this is the opportunity. So we think of gut health, we think of, guys, what do you think of? You think about your food. Maybe you think about testing. Maybe you think about a probiotic or other supplements, or maybe you've had an experience where it's kind of a little of all of that. Maybe you've done all of this and it doesn't work at all. The importance of this connection is that now there's an opportunity to come at it from a different angle. And maybe more than an opportunity, it's kind of essential. Like if the things that your brain are perceiving, or if the state that your mind is not in line with healing, you're only going to go so far. So that's the really interesting opportunity.
So is that what they call, now as a layperson, I am not a nutritionist, so is that what they call the microbiome?
Yeah, well, great question. So the microbiome is everything that makes up the inside of the GI tract. So the microbiome would be sort of the environment at large of what's going on inside the gut. And that microbiome both informs the state of your mind as well as gets impacted by the state of your mind. So that direction, that communication that happens goes both ways. It's not one directional, it's bi-directional.
So interestingly enough, just the other day I was on a webinar, and it was for a skin health professional who was talking about gut health and like acne and skin problems, and how like the gut health can help you clear up your skin.
Huge because, okay, so we're talking about the gut and the brain, but the gut and your hormones, the gut and your immune system, it all stems from gut health, which means, so if all health stems from the gut, right, we've heard this before, all health stems from the gut, then it also has to stem from your mind and your brain, because you cannot disconnect them unless you cut that vagus nerve, and you wouldn't be alive. Like you couldn't do that. So
Right.
it is really this interesting sort of addition when we're talking about gut health. What I've realized is that, my clients I can only take them so far as a dietitian. some of them need a lot of extra outside guidance and assistance, and really not that they need it, but that they deserve it. They deserve it. So big topics here. If you guys are thinking like, well, is that me? Or these my clients? People who have a history of abuse, a history of trauma, which could be described as almost anything, right? So trauma means something so different to people. It could be anything. It doesn't have to be sort of what we think of as a major accident. It could be pregnancy.
Mm-hmm.
It could be a delivery. It could be the death of a pet, the death of a loved one. Those things, PTSD is a big one. So when those things impact the mind, we're all only human. I mean, this is not an uncommon thing that we as human beings in this world the last few years require. So what I've been starting to see in my clients and in my practice and personally is that this connection cannot be ignored. It has to be considered, and we have to understand, one, that it exists so that we can just make our clients aware that it is something that they need to be thinking of and mindful of. And two, then teach them what to do. How do you impact this connection in a positive way?
So let me ask you this. What can you do to help the connection between the gut and the brain and the brain and the gut?
Yeah. Okay. So I like to break this down in kind of two categories. So you can go at it from the gut and you can go at it from the brain. Makes sense. Really, we should be doing both of these. The order in which you decide to do, personalized. It depends on kind of like what's the person's top priority. What are they feeling in that moment? What are they struggling with? Okay, so let's start with brain stuff, right? So ways that you can impact the message that your brain sends is kind of twofold. So you can strengthen the tone of your vagus nerve. Okay.
Okay.
That's so strange. It sounds so bizarre, but you can strengthen the tone of the vagus nerve so that then all of the other things that you start to do allows that communication to happen faster.
Gotcha. So it's like opening up the highway, like the interstate, like there's no traffic and it's boom.
Love it. Yes, exactly. So how do we do that? So the vagus nerve is actually attached to your vocal cords as well. So when you hum, or when you sing, or you could gargle, which I'm not going to demonstrate. We all know what that is. I did that one time. I was like, gargle, that activates the vagus nerve and it helps sharpen those impulses. Nice. Another thing that you can do is cold exposure. So people can take this however they want. If you live near a body of water that gets cold, jump in it. I know that sounds to me miserable. It is miserable, but it's one of those things that helps strengthen that tone, that cold exposure. For me, I do cold showers just at the end of a regular shower each day, turn the water down. I started with
like athletes. I've seen like they take like ice water baths.
Yes, of course. Yeah. And there's actually a ton of emerging research on cold exposure that people could dive into for various reasons, not even related to gut and vagal tone. So that's something that all of us can do. And I have been saying this a lot recently. Getting used to being cold is uncomfortable and it's not enjoyable at all for most people, certainly not for me. So I recommend people start trying this in the summertime when the water actually doesn't quite get as cold in the shower. So you can kind of slowly work your way up. I have found it to be an incredible help and tool in thinking about it that way. Other things that you can do, okay. Ways in which you can impact the mind is to help switch your brain from fight or flight mode, which is what we kind of constantly exist in, right? So the opposite of fight or flight is actually called rest and digest.
I love that. I love that. That just feels so good just to say that.
Don't you feel like you kind of transition just by saying it?
Just by saying that, for real.
Saying it, I know. Yeah. Yep, it does change the energy. Yes, it does. So when we are in this fight or flight mode, and we don't even realize it because it's become our norm. It's what we're used to. It's our new baseline. So we don't even realize it. But your brain does. And that's the part that is tricky for people. It doesn't matter all the time what you feel. What your brain is perceiving is what really matters. So if it perceives that you are in fight or flight mode, then it's going to send the message to your gut, hey, we're in fight or flight mode. We're trying to run away from a tiger right now. We don't care about your digestion. And what happens is that energy in the body directly gets pulled away from the digestive system. It gets pulled away because the message, it's evolutionary, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Message is saying we're trying to run to safety.
Yes. All
Don't
the energy
move up.
needs to go into the fight or flight instead of, Abby just commented the sit down, and her parents just say to sit down and digest your food. So that was really good instruction.
Yeah. Oh my God. It is good instruction. Okay. So let's go off of that. How do we take this information and translate it into something that makes sense? Because the reality of it, most of us are eating a meal in our car. There's children running around. You're sitting at a desk. Like this is the reality. And to say to somebody, every time you have a meal, you have to be sitting still and really calm. Like, it's not rational. It's not reasonable. It's not helpful advice. If you can do it, that's perfect, right? But for the rest of us normal people right now in this world, what you can do, no matter where you are, alone, around people, with kids, in the car, it doesn't matter. You could take 3 to 5 deep breaths. I mean, this is what it could look like, and I'm going to exaggerate it. Nobody is going to tell me that they don't have time to do that 3 times.
Right. And what was that phrase that you said? The opposite of fight or flight?
Rest and digest.
I think that, like, just use that as a mantra and just
rest and digest. Rest and digest. Wow, I love it. Yeah, because what that will do, and this is what I like to tell people. Think about it in terms of creating pockets of calm. You don't have to get rid of all of the stress in your life. You're not going to. Nobody's asking you to. But you can create little pockets. And I suggest that you create these pockets at least around meal times or snack times when you're asking your digestion to work. So that way you have just, a 10-minute period of time, it might only be, where 3 times, 5 times, okay, message from the brain to the gut through that vagus nerve changes now. It's no longer fight or flight. For the time being, it's rest and digest. And then if you got to go right back into it, you do, and that's okay. That's how we work with the reality of life. And you're directly impacting that connection. It's powerful and it's empowering. No money, no supplements, no side effects. It's easy, nothing. And this is the kind of thing that gets overlooked, right? Mm-hmm. Because, Rita, it's not sparkly. Right. It's not sexy. It's not fancy. And that stuff matters. Like, it really does.
We love to have like deliveries of our supplements or our meals or whatever. So you don't get an Amazon notification or a doorbell notification about it. It's almost too easy, honestly.
And that's why people overlook it. But these are the things, I call them low-hanging fruit. You can't not do some of these things. Here's a caveat. There are people who've been chronically sick. They have an infection. They have bacterial overgrowth, whatever it might be. Telling them to breathe 5 times before they have a meal is not going to change that. Like, that's not what we're saying. But there are the majority of people who are kind of like, oh, sometimes I have a little bloating. Sometimes I feel a little nauseous. Sometimes I just feel blah when I eat. I don't really know what's going on. Like, this is the stuff that breaks up that cycle. And it helps you come back into your body. Mm-hmm. Helps you come back and connect and be present. Even you don't gotta go on a yoga retreat to manage to do this. You take and you create these little pockets.
I love
you're
that
not
concept.
Doing anything extra, really. You're not adding in an hour or even 10 minutes of anything.
Right. It's so simple. I love that. So, Kylie, what about foods? How can foods help change our gut health?
Okay. So now we're talking about how we access this connection from the gut side.
Okay.
So there are these components called short chain fatty acids. And essentially they are produced from some of the bacteria that live in the large intestine. So some of that bacteria, the good guys, the stuff that you want to have there, they consume parts of our food called resistant starch. When they eat that resistant starch, they create these short chain fatty acids. Now, the beauty of this is that, first of all, short chain fatty acids are essential. They're very anti-inflammatory. They help repair and protect the lining of the gut. So they're great for your immune system. They're great for overall anti-inflammatory impact. And they have the ability to cross the blood-brain barrier.
Really?
Where they have the ability to impact your mind, sleep, mood, ADD, ADHD, depression, anxiety. This is why.
These chemicals kind of, do they work like a lubricant for our like brain impulses kind of thing? Like, how does that?
It's a really interesting question. So what they do is, because they're anti-inflammatory, they have that impact. So not everything is able to impact the brain in that same way because there's a protective barrier there.
Right.
These guys are allowed in. So they can do that anti-inflammatory way, kind of job in a way that like not everything really can. It doesn't mean that those other things don't have a systemic impact. But how do we then think about feeding these bacteria the right types of foods to produce these really impactful? Sometimes people call them postbiotics. So you've got prebiotics that feed the bacteria, probiotics that are the bacteria, postbiotics that's too confusing for me. I think it adds too many words for people. But nonetheless, resistant starch foods. Okay. Cooked and cooled rice, white potatoes, sweet potatoes. The important part here is cooked and cooled. So, you know, when you cook rice and it starts to cool down, it gets kind of sticky. That's the resistant starch. You watch it and you can feel it start to build. So you don't have to eat these foods cold. You can warm them back up. But what I often recommend for people is batch cook. Make a whole bunch of roasted potatoes or baked potato, whatever you want. Make a whole bunch of rice and then you just warm it up over the week. Done. Resistant starch. Nice. Okay. Another option is green bananas or green banana flour, plantains or plantain flour, white potato starch. Bananas, you know how most of us really prefer them yellow?
I like them a little overripe, actually.
Yeah, that's because bananas, as they ripen, the starch turns into sugar. And so we want the resistant starch of the green banana. I just get it in a flour. I just get green banana flour instead. Add it to a smoothie, add it to oatmeal, add it to soup. So it's kind of as a thickener. Easy. I have it in this shake right now.
Awesome.
And you can just make it something that you really look forward to having. There are a few other foods that you can get it from, but those are the really, really high concentrated ones. Another option though, so one of the 12 short chain fatty acids, there are 12 total. One of them is called butyrate. This is a common one. You can actually take this one as a supplement. And it occurs naturally in some amounts in ghee. So like clarified butter. So I'll tell people, clarified butter on top of some cooked and cooled rice, double whammy. Lots of great resistant starch and actual short chain fatty acids. Beautiful.
Wow.
Impacts the brain in a
amazing. So someone said in the chat, neurotransmitters. I guess that's the word I was looking for. And someone's looking forward to this presentation. Awesome. Now, speaking of supplements, well, I do have one more question because I know that there is something that you have a product that you really want to talk about, and I'm excited to share this with people. But I do have one more question that came in that was asked ahead of time before we got on. Was, do you accept international clients, or do you only work with people in like the U.S. and Canada?
That's a great question. So personally, the downside and oftentimes the barrier is when I'm working, because I do all gut folks, and they often need, by the time they get to me, testing and such. And so if they live in a place where there isn't a lab nearby where I can have them send in their results, or it can't get back here to the lab in time before it's no longer valid.
Gotcha.
That could be a barrier.
Okay.
Yeah, unfortunately.
So other than that, though, like if somebody did have access to a lab and was able to just go ahead and like send you their results,
why not? Sure.
That's awesome. So tell us about, it's called That Gut Drink. I would love for you to tell us about that.
Oh my gosh.
I'm super interested.
So this is a crazy story. Oh, I was taking a bunch of different gut supplements for my own journey, and working on connecting the mind and the gut, and I just hated them. I hated them so much that I wasn't taking them, and I thought, this is crazy. Like, I know better. I know what I'm doing. I know why it's important. I can figure this out. So I concocted a drink that was something I really looked forward to having. It was delicious. It was tasty. It was kind of like a fun thing. I threw it in the afternoon. And so I started recommending it to my clients, and it was really delicious, and they were feeling better, and it was really helpful. So I took the idea and I applied to a food accelerator here in Washington, D.C., which is basically a company that exists to help people, normal people like us, bring products to market. I applied for their program. They said, we think this is a great idea. We love how passionate you are. We can see how people need this. We are going to accept you into the program. We're going to invest. They take apart a percentage of the company. They invest, and they are going to help me bring
That's
this drink to
incredible.
market. Like, what
That's
fantasy world am I
incredible.
living in? It's wild. It's wild. So all of that starts next week, and this drink will be available in stores here in DC in December.
That's so exciting. Congratulations. What a
Thank
great
you.
Christmas present.
I know, it was amazing, absolutely amazing. But more exciting is getting to be able to bring that to more people. More average. Our clients, they don't know why we're recommending the supplements. We tell them, but once they read the note once, they don't care. They just take what we tell them to take because they trust us.
Mhm.
And I love that idea, and I want to be able to spread that. I mean, this is stuff that you don't have to be in the throes of some sort of GI upset to get benefit from this. It will actually help prevent you from getting to that point. It's great for maintenance. It's great for healing. There's no downside unless for some reason you just didn't like the taste.
Well, we created a little a short link. It's leslibitel.com/Kylie. If you guys want to check that out, might be something for yourself or for your clients. Maybe you want to try it on yourself and then see what you think first, and then offer it to your clients. It is called. Sharon just asked, "What is it called?" It's called That Gut Drink.
It's called That Gut
We're in
Drink.
pre-launch of Kylie's first product. I'm so
Oh
excited.
my God, it's so crazy. Is
it surreal?
It's surreal. I honestly, people ask a lot of questions about it, and I'm kind of like, I have no idea. I don't even know what I don't know. Honestly, I've got no clue, but I'm leaning in. So it should be really fun. It's going to be an exciting project.
So that URL, again, if y'all are listening and not able to watch, it's leslibitel.com/Kylie. Just for a short link. That's going to redirect you to a much longer URL, but so that you can remember it. And if you want to find Miss Kylie, her website is stratanutrition.com, or her email is kylie.fagnano@stratanutrition.com. Yeah.
Perfect.
Awesome.
Perfect.
So, one more question before we go. I know we only budgeted half an hour for this call. I think a lot. So
me too. You and me both.
Right. So I do want to ask you. Lesli coached you in your nutrition business. And so if you were to maybe describe Lesli's coaching, or if somebody asked you like, hey, if I were to invest in a coach, who would you recommend? Or if you would recommend Lesli, why? The reason that I'm asking is, it's no surprise that, Lesli is a coach. She's on vacation and she deserves this time off. And in the meantime, me being the person behind the scenes, we've been doing some updates on her programs, some of her packages. There's a new coaching package available. And Lesli has opened up her calendar to talk to people about what coaching program may be a good fit for them. So you can go to leslibitel.com and see, and just go to book a call, or I think it's Let's Chat, and talk to Lesli. But so Kylie, tell us a little bit about your experience coaching with Lesli.
Yeah, I'll tell you. I think anybody who has worked with a coach, for the most part, is going to relate to the feeling of just being tossed around. Honestly, you are in such a vulnerable place as a business owner, especially as a new one, or when you're in a position where you're trying to grow. You are so vulnerable because you don't know a lot. You don't know what questions to ask. You don't know, and you're seeking help. And because of that, there's a lot of people out there that know how to tap on the right buttons that make you feel like
Yeah,
if
we
you
hear
don't work
that
with,
quite a bit whenever we do our intake, that they've been burned by, I don't
oh
want to say
God,
bad coaches, but they were misled by a sales page or
yes.
a consultation, and then they say, yes, this sounds great, and they get in, and it's like, uh,
What? Wait, what? So for me, Leslie was plain and simple, just a breath of fresh air. So not only was she delivering on the things that she told me she could help me with, it was above and beyond. And I don't want to speak for everybody, but I think a lot of dietitians are like-minded in the sense that we need actionable steps. I don't even think it's a dietitian thing. It's a human thing. You need actionable steps to be able to understand how to go from point A to point B. Now, is there a mindset component? Yes. If that's what you know you need, you go find a mindset coach. If you're over that or you're not ready and you need like, hey, I need to know how to get clients in. What's step 1? What's step 2? What's step 3? When step 3 doesn't work, what else can it look like? What's a different step 3? That's what you got. That's what I got with Leslie. It didn't matter what I threw at her. There was never, well, you're just not doing it. Oh, well, then this is your fault. No. There was always a solution. There was always a conversation. There was always a way to continue to move forward. Wow, that's what it is. There's always a way to continue to move forward. And when you're trying to grow a business, that's all you care about. Sometimes it wasn't the right thing for me or whatever it was. I didn't do it the right way, but I wasn't just sitting around.
It's
And
funny that you say that because on our calls, as part of Leslie's team, we talk about you guys, not in a bad way, obviously, but I know personally that Leslie's like her main objective with every coaching call, whether it's private or group or a course that she's hosting, is what can we do to help Kylie move the needle forward this week? And even if it's just the one step and then it gets you unstuck and then the momentum kicks in and you're over that little hump.
that's it. That's right. Let me give an example. It's not just like, hey, go and do this thing. This is the idea that I have. Here's a template. Here's exactly what I think you should be saying. Take it. I'm handing it to you. I want you to tweak it in a way that makes it feel authentic to you and your business and what you offer. And let me know how it works. It's not even just like, hey, I think that you should send 3 emails that say blah, 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 blah. It's the actual email. Like, this is what I want you to do. It is so supportive in a way that business owners who don't have business backgrounds, right? Which is a lot of us.
Yes.
A lot of us.
Yes.
We always complain about it. That's why we need coaches. That's why we feel vulnerable. That's why it's easy for us to be taken advantage of. But we don't know the questions to ask. We don't know what we don't know. And that's where we often get burned. It's not going to happen with Leslie. I've never met anybody, and I've been working with Leslie for years at this point in some capacity. And I've never had anybody say even remotely anything other than high praise, truly.
Yeah. And on the back end, refund requests are so few and far between. And that to me speaks for itself, because, of course I'm in the tech side, so I help make those things happen, and very, very rare.
Yeah.
Okay. So last question, where can people go? And I know the answer to this, 'cause I have a banner prepared, but I guess this is where you do your little pitch to tell them where to go to find more information. And we go ahead and close it out. And I do apologize that we've gone over, but I've loved this conversation. I've never met you before. I don't know how I've never met you before.
No, I know.
But so I really love meeting you and getting to know you a little bit. I think you're awesome.
I appreciate that so much. It was such a pleasure. Thank you for having me. Thanks to Leslie, of course, as well. So so stratanutrition.com is my website. The link that she has up here right now, I think, is actually going to take you to a fun little thing that I'm doing in September. So I'm doing a 10-day gut reset. It's $27. It is a perfect low cost onboard for clients who are kind of dabbling or not sure if they have a problem or know that they have a problem and just feel too overwhelmed to really dive in. It is not a deep dive. There's no testing, there's no supplements. You don't have to do anything. It's all the foundational work some of which we talked about today. There's going to be recipes and guides and organizers and all kinds of stuff to help.
Only $27.
$27
That's
bucks.
a bargain.
I was like, why am I doing this? Never again. So just one time. But I've got quite a few people signed up for it already, and I am so excited. I love bringing people together in community. I think the sense of not feeling alone, not feeling ashamed, and not feeling afraid is an understated benefit to offer people. So I'm looking forward to it. It starts September 12th. I think that link will allow you to kind of copy and paste it and send it to any clients that you think might benefit.
Abby just asked, can we do this if you're not in the US? The $27 reset.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah. There are 2 group sessions, one on the 12th, one on the 21st, and that's going to be at 6 p.m. Eastern Central Time. So that might be the only thing to kind of share and make sure maybe you are waking up very early or staying up very late.
And again, her regular website is stratanutrition.com. So that's where you can go to find more information, or also Kylie.Fagnano at stratanutrition.com.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yay,
thank you so much. Appreciate it. This
Awesome.
was great. Thank you.
All right. Bye, guys.
Bye, everyone.